Now is the winter of our discontent, made fevered summer by the tyrant sun, and all the ice that cooled the ancient world is buried deep within the choking deep. Now do we bind our brows with withered threads and clasp our hands for ruin as for triumph. Our iron towers rise while roots lie black, our hymns of plenty sung over the starving fields. Grim visaged war now paints his cheek with smiles, and where the sword once flashed in honest strife, there creeps the tongues of demagogues and liars to fright the hearts of weak and weary souls, and sets the poor to gnaw the bones of poorer still. But I, that mark the sea's relentless climb, the forest felled, the air made rank with smoke, I that behold the bones of children bleached by genocide's cold hand and famine's fire, I that am not carved for wanton's revelry, nor shaped to toast a poisoned harvest feast, I that was stamped with conscience sharp as thorn, half made to witness, yet not to rejoice. How should I dance whilst nations drown in praise? And therefore, since I cannot join that cheer that gilds the gallows and salutes the flame, I am resolved to strip their masks of lies. Plots have I spied, and prophecies unclean, where drunken prophets mad with promised gold have stirred the mobs to crown the tyrant's head, and call the flood a fountain of their gain. The prophecy is this: the seas shall climb and claim the throne, the earth shall rise in wrath against her keepers, and if we blind shall kneel to those who lift the pyre, sink hope into my bones, for lo, the hour of reckonings draws nigh. For now is the winter of our discontent, or whatever season marks the world's lament. The throne shall soon be swallowed by the sea, where kings once ruled now drift their majesty. The forests fall, the burning deserts cry, the polar ice gives up its final sigh. What have we grown but monsters of fantasies and deceit, that clasp for ruin call our losses sweet? The maidens bleed in alleys veiled by night, the children starve, their bellies void of light. In Sudan's dust, in Congo's darkened plain, in Gaza's stones their bare unending pain. The camps of east and west with wire are crowned, the gulags frost the ever-frozen ground. Yet, lo, a trembling spark resists the cold. A plague withdraws, the babes draw breath of old. The girls with pens inscribe their fates anew, and winds and suns a gentler rain pursue. But tyrants ride on steeds of brazen lies, and populous banners darken honest skies. The rich grow fatter, gnawing gold and bone, while justice kneels and mercy stands alone. To be or not to be, our hour is thin beneath this budding hope and budding sin. Shall we endure or sink in gilded change, and toast the floods that drowns our barren plains? What have we become but monsters of fantasies, that dances blind upon the collapsing seas? Choose now before the dawn is turned to ash. The tide climbs fast, the hour comes in a flash. For a being is the blade that cuts us free. For now is the winter of our discontent. Rise, O world, or whatever season drags its shadowy cloak across the shoulders of the world. The thrones shall be swallowed by the ocean, their gilded halls dissolved into brine, and kings shall sink like driftwood in the tides. The forests fall like soldiers slain in silence. The rivers choke with ash and poison, and deserts bloom with famine's bitter seeds. Maidens bleed in alleys cloaked by night. Children starve where the world has turned its gaze. Sudan's dust, Congo's mines, Gaza's shattered streets. Steel cages rise in the east and west alike. Gulags thrust the bones of men forgotten, and liberty lies bound, a widow in her own home. Yet, in this dark, a flicker struggles still. The plague that stole our babes recedes, the hands that teach is farther than the change, and girls who once were barred from ink and page now write the hymns and songs of futures of change. Forests grew wounded, lift their roots towards the sky, and winds and songs whisper of gentler rains, but tyranny rides high on steeds of lies, and populist banners stain on morning air. The rich grow fat, while the poor gnaw empty bones, and nations bow to shadows of their own making. What have we become but monsters of fantasies, dancing blind upon the cracking ice of truth? To be or not to be, shall we endure the flood or folly, or rise or conscious blade? The oceans climb, the storm is at the gates, yet hope, though fragile as a moth's wing, persists, a single spark in the halls of human night. But hear me now, O children of light and earth, shall we bow forever to the gilded lie, the market's cold hand that crushes life to coin? Shall we let steel and oil and gold and greed dictate that fates and forests, seas and flesh? Rise, I tell you, rise, ye makers of the living world, strike down the pillars of this hollow grain. Tear the golden idols from their pedestals, and break the chains that bind the many to the few. No throne shall stand that feasts on human pain. No vault of coin shall dim the rising sun. Let fire of conscience blaze through every hall, and let the flood of justice cleanse the streets, until the land renewed may breathe again. To be or not to be, our choice is clear. A world enslaved, or a world reclaimed by those who dare to dream beyond the empire of greed. Arise! Arise, and with your trembling hands shape the dawn, for winter will not wait. Strike now before the ice cracks beneath our feet, and call a new season into being. One not of king of coins, but of the living, breathing earth, and all her children free at last. For now is the winter of our discontent. Made fevered summer by a burning sun, and all the ice that once adorned the poles melts, drowned in the belly of the swelling sea. Now are our brows crowned with hollow laurels, congratulating ruin as if it were triumph. Our monuments of steel cast longer shadows, our songs of progress deaf to the dying earth. Grim-faced war wears a populist smile, that now, instead of bearing the weight of truth, we ride the steeds of ignorance and haste, to fright the meek with empty promises, and gild the chains of inequality with false gods and false gold. God or gold. But I who see the tides that rise like silent armies, the forest felled, the rivers choked with ash, the children drowned in genocidal waves of greed, I who was not shaped to dance into the masquerade of false validation and blind applause, I who was carved from the scarred trunk of history, half finished, witness to the crimes we celebrate, how can it play at joy in such a season? And therefore, since I cannot praise the age that worships its own reflection in the flooded glass, I am determined to unveil its villainy. Plots have I seen, inductions poisonous, spun by a drunken power, echoed by hollow dreams, that set the poor against the poorer still, and crown the cruel as saviors of the realm. The prophecy is not one of name but many. The sea shall rise, and with it wrath. The earth shall burn, and call it a grove. And we, if deaf, shall crown the arsonist as kings. Dive conscious into my marrow. Here comes the reckoning. How should I dance while nations drown in praise? And therefore, since I cannot join in their cheer that gilds the gallows and salutes the flame, I am resolved to strip their masks of lies. Plots have I spied and prophecies unclean, where drunken prophets mad with promised gold have stirred the mob to crown the tyrant's head and call the flood a fountain of their gain. The prophecy is this: the seas shall claim the throne, the earth shall rise in wrath against her keepers, and if blind shall kneel to those who lit the pyre, we will sink and hope into my bones, for lo, the hour of reckoning draws nigh.